Nathan, when you look at the rest of this squad, where are the hot spot question marks, things that need to be changed, fixed, upgraded during the spring, and then will continue to be a work of progress probably going toward August?
Yeah, so I mean, we obviously talked about quarterback play. That I think they kind of solved that issue in a sense, which was nice. The wide receivers. I mean, last year obviously they not only did they not have maybe a huge amount of talent at wide receiver, but they also lacked depth at wide receiver. So when guys went down, there just wasn't a lot there to kind of bring in. That is starting to build in a much better direction under Chauncey Stuckey, who's now going into his second season at Notre Dame, brought in a really good recruiting class. And I expect a few of those guys to, to be possible contributors for him next year. Jaden Greathouse and Rico Flores come to mind as the two guys I think that could maybe play as freshmen. Braylon James, who was, in my opinion, the best player in the Notre Dame football class that they brought in. He might take a year or so just because he's a little bit more raw, but his athleticism is off the charts. So maybe don't see him next year, but moving forward. Brought in Caleb Smith from a transfer from Virginia Tech, who had a really solid season for them and a couple solid seasons for them overall. So I think the wide receiver core not only needs to get better, but I think it is going to be better with some of the additions and guys getting older. Deion Colsey, Tobias Merriweather, they got better as the season went on last year, even if the stats don't necessarily show it. If you watch the games, you saw just better play as the season went on. Jaden Thomas, kind of the same thing. So I think the wide receiver room is going to be much better this year and have much more depth on top of that. So if guys go down, the biggest question mark for me really is the defensive line. You lose Isaiah Foskey, you lose the Adam Alola brothers, who were key cogs in the middle of that defense the last few seasons. So right now you have a lot of unproven depth there. You have a lot of guys that came in as high caliber prospects and high caliber recruits, but they don't necessarily have the production to match right now. So that's kind of my biggest question mark. They bringing back Cam Hart in the secondary, I think, is huge for the cornerback play. I think Cam Hart and Benjamin Morrison are going to be a really, really good duo there. The safeties, I think, are going to be fine. Brandon Joseph overall was kind of a disappointment for Notre Dame coming over from Northwestern last season, and I think they actually might be better off with some of the guys they have on their roster. You got to replace the nickel corner. But I think that will be fine. Tariq Bracy was a really good nickel corner for them the last couple seasons. He's off to the NFL, so we'll see how that goes. But I think linebacker, they pretty much return everybody, talented group, have a lot of young guys that might be able to step up and be even better. But for Notre Dame's purposes, the last 4 or 5 years, they've kind of defensive line and linebacker have been their major strengths on defense, and this year's maybe the biggest question mark they've had along the defensive line.
All right, Nathan, let us know what we need to know about Golden Homers podcast.
Yeah, so we're releasing episodes probably, once a week right now. We're doing some spaces on Twitter as well. So if you follow myself or my co-host Mason Plummer, we like to do spaces. It's a cool little thing on Twitter. I don't know if you've been a part of that at all, but
I was for the first time the other day. Somebody dragged me into a Florida State conversation with Brian Stork, who played center there.
Gotcha. Yeah, those are fun.
It was a good time.
But yeah, so I mean, one thing me and Mason always talk about is, you think you have a few slow weeks, but I think, and this probably isn't just a Notre Dame thing, I'm sure it happens, with Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, all the major programs, Michigan, whatever it may be. You have a few slow weeks and you wonder what the heck's going on, but there's really no dull moment when it comes to covering those teams. There's always a kid committing or some big name committing elsewhere that you need to talk about, or a coaching, especially in today's college landscape, the transfer portal in the off season and, coaches leaving. I mean, I think this was the first year I thought Notre Dame was going to have no turnover in their coaching staff. And then it turned out once Reese left, the floodgates opened and Harry Heastan retired. And, Brian Mason, their special teams coach, who was great, left for the NFL. So all of a sudden they're replacing 3 to 4 coaches when no one was expecting that. So there's never a dull moment. So if you check out our podcast and you're a Notre Dame fan or just want to learn, or at least hopefully learn about what me and Mason see within the program and stuff like that, we're talking about something new every week. And then now you have the basketball coach, or the basketball coaching search, which I know this is a football, show and all that, but that's been a a big topic of discussion around Notre Dame parts as well. And we cover basketball just as much as we cover football. So yeah, that's what you can kind of expect from our podcast.
Very cool. Nathan Urbach, Golden Homers. Get on over there. Check it out. You see Nathan's Twitter handle right there. You can follow it directly from there. Nathan, appreciate you stopping by, man.
Thanks, Mark.